Bitcoin fixes every economic problem of everyone that adopts it. So
personally, I think within the US, Western Europe, and wealthy countries, we're going to see some form of universal basic income put into. In sub-Saharan Africa, there's no money for universal basic income. Even in, say, Brazil, there's no money for universal basic income. So then you'll have a competition where the rich countries basically vie to buy all the poor countries in exchange for loaning them money for basic income. And then what could possibly go wrong, right?
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And guys, you gotta love Michael Saylor. Bitcoin fixes every economic problem. And we know the potential that Bitcoin had, but unfortunately, is controlled by a few hands. Just like the global economy right now. And we have Ben Goertzel on universal basic income. And guys, we know it's coming. They've already done the test during the C word. But little do the people know this money is going to be programmable, telling you what, when, and how to buy, and you have 3 to 6 months to spend it, or poof, it's gone. And we know if you allow the government to feed you, they're definitely going to starve you. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you.
So I think
Go for it.
Yeah, well, look, I just think we all have smartphones now, and yet income inequality has increased. Existing power structures remain. So it'll be interesting to see whether there is something different about this technological shift. Jeff Hinton was on this stage yesterday. He was talking about the different kinds of AI risks, and one of the ones he talked about was the one that has gained a lot of attention, which is essentially the Skynet scenario, AI becoming intelligent and taking over the world, which he is fairly dismissive of, but not entirely. And he said, if AIs are smarter than us and they develop goals of their own, they can become dangerous. What would it mean for an AI to develop goals of their own? Is the kind of the kind of agent that you're talking about, the assistant in our pocket, is that an example of an autonomous agent that develops goals of its own, or is there some other threshold that has to be crossed before we reach that? And is that worrying?
No, I mean, Pi is certainly not autonomous, and it doesn't have any capability of learning to improve itself independently of us designers. And so that's why I come back to the point that it is really about us being responsible for designing controls into the system and really designing its values. And so I think what Jeff is worried about, and obviously I have a huge amount of respect for Jeff, is really into the far out distant future, in my opinion. This is a multi-decade risk of existential threat that I think people are very obsessed with because it's kind of an easy, Terminator, Skynet framing that is, very engaging and fun to think about. And I have time for thinking about that, but I think more importantly, there are going to be very near-term practical implications, kind of like the ones that you've described with respect to inequality and access, that I'm much more concerned about in the near term.
Obviously, with this raise, tell me about it and what it does to your valuation now.
It's a fantastic day for us. I mean, it's a great honor and privilege to be backed by some of the leading investors and technologists of the last couple decades. And being able to partner with Microsoft and NVIDIA at the same time to deploy our new cluster of GPU H100s. We now have the largest operational cluster of those chips in the world, and that gives us a huge edge when it comes to training these large language models. So it's a very exciting time.
What does it value your company at?
Well, I think the potential upside is enormous. So, we are very, very excited about what this can do. Personal intelligence is going to be the future interface and the way that you actually, interact with many other digital services. I think it's going from personal computer to personal intelligence. And if anything, I think in the long term, the industry is currently underrating the impact of what it means to have intelligence on tap, available to everybody, to turbocharge everything that you're going to do.
So Amazon has been doing AI for 25 years, going back to personalization on the website. We have over 100,000 AWS customers using our machine learning and AI services. We have LLMs, large language models, in production today, have for a long time, powering Alexa voice response, powering some things on the retail search experience. And we've pivoted so much of this expertise we have now to generative AI, and we're taking a really unique approach all the way from the very bottom to the very top of the stack in a way that I don't think any other provider is, all because that's what we think customers are going to need as this plays itself out over the coming years.
And guys, they tell us, don't worry about Skynet. But those who are in the space, guys, we know all about Starlinks. We know about Neuralink and others that can read the brain. And then you add that in with all the data that they've collected. These machines will know you better than you know yourself. Now we have Mustafa, former employee of Google's DeepMind, now has a company, Inflection, and who invests? Microsoft and NVIDIA. And guys, the only thing you have to do is go and look at the funding rounds on any of these major crypto projects, AI, even tech stocks. It doesn't matter. You will see BlackRock, Vanguard, and these other big corporations investing in the beginning because they're funded. They know the goal. They know the mission. And we know if these big corporations are giving you hundreds of millions or billions, you're going to carry out their goals. We've seen it in medicine. We've seen it in education. It's the same story over and over. And we see Amazon admitting that they've been in AI for over 25 years. Remember, guys, you're in a plan. This plan moves in phases. And we see the type of control AWS has over crypto. And now, guys, we have medicine being discovered and designed by AI. And during the C word, we found out how much control Big Pharma has over the medical field. And if that didn't wake you up, nothing will. We saw it on a global stage. And guys, with the power of these robots, algorithms, and drones and blockchain, it gives the NWO power over the globe. Remember, that was the whole agenda, banking the unbanked. All these satellites will give them access to places that they didn't even have. And just about everybody has access to a cell phone. And with all this technology, it still hasn't changed the global economy for the better. We're seeing all the wealth concentrated in a few hands. Now all the power will be moved over into a few hands. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows. When it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Biotech firm In Silico Medicine beginning human trials of a drug developed by AI. The therapy treats a chronic lung disease, and the company claims it's the first drug entirely discovered and designed by artificial intelligence to begin a phase 2 clinical trial. Joining us now is former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb. He also serves on the board of FISA and Illumina and is a CNBC contributor. I don't know where we went over the tipping point for calling it this, Scott, because I can go back. I remember years ago the new guy at the MIT Center for Cancer Research, you might even know him, Tyler Jacks. The reason they picked him was because he was going to fuse a lot of computer technology with drug discovery, with combinatorial chemistry or rational drug design. Use computers to see what compound is going to bind most tightly to the target. So we've been using computers for how many years? And when did we cross over the step where we call it artificial intelligence, when it's been incorporated for years and years and years? What's the difference now?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. We've been using these in silico tools probably since the early 2000s. There were companies that were formed in the early 2000s based on rational drug design using computers to help design the drugs and discover the new targets and the drugs that would hit those targets. It does appear that this company has made heavier use of those tools, but there's a lot of companies that are making very heavy use of those tools. So I'm not really sure if there's a tipping point when it comes to the discovery and the development of novel molecules to hit new targets and using computers for that purpose. I think where we're going to see a lot of innovation is continuing to incorporate these tools in early discovery and development, and refining molecules, but also moving them closer to the patient, using some of these artificial intelligence tools, these large language models, to help stratify and select patients into clinical trials that are more likely to benefit from some of these drugs, less likely to experience side effects, and then ultimately having the regulatory constructs to move those into the care setting, to move them into healthcare, and guide how we deliver drugs to patients in the healthcare setting. That's going to be, I think, the real tipping point to allowing these tools to really start to make substantial improvements in the delivery of healthcare.
Be the biggest usage. You could present data to the HMS or to Medicare and Medicaid and say, look, this is why you need to pay for this. Or conversely, you could say, look, we're not getting any benefit from all this money, and there's no reason to even do it at this point. I can think of so many different uses for when you could aggregate a lot of different data. I wonder if doctors. I think this is once again where it would be helpful, not necessarily displacing doctors. But medicine is an art, as you know, and an experienced clinician, right? An experienced clinician can be presented with a lot of stuff and just take a guess on what's really happening. With AI, would you be able to? It would not be an art. It would be a pure science medicine. And at that point, you might not need the intuition of a great doctor.
Well, look, I think it's certainly going to be the most impactful application in healthcare, not just drug discovery, but also the delivery of healthcare. You raised an interesting point in your comments about the use of these tools by insurers. This is creating a lot of consternation on Capitol Hill right now.
Yeah, machines say you can't have this. Yeah, machines say you can't have this drug. You got to die.
And a lot of legislators are calling for new regulation. I think that would be a mistake to try to create new regulatory models. The existing regulatory models can adequately deal with these. We do have regulation of health plans in terms of how they deal with claims and claim denials, and you can apply those rules to the use of these tools. And so my concern is that these healthcare applications could get scoped into some of these calls for regulation more broadly of AI. And what we need to recognize is that when it comes to healthcare, there's a lot of existing regulatory frameworks that have been put in place over a long period of time that are adequate to deal with these tools and the incorporation of these tools, not just into drug development and drug delivery.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go, but clearly we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 Kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get on stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids' books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.